What's the deal, y'all? Y'all already know what it is. The Proof in the Pudding podcast. I'm your host for the evening, Sion 919, and I got a special guest coming into the building tonight. You know what I'm saying? A real special moment right now, yo. Black excellence at its finest. My next guest is the first woman business owner that we had on the show, and she's actually the first black woman to ever be on the podcast twice. So without any further ado, I'm gonna bring her to the stage, y'all. This is Jewel, the artist. What's the deal? How you feeling?
Hey, what's going on?
I'm chilling. I'm chilling, yo. I'm excited to have you back.
Happy to be back.
That's dope. That's dope, yo. So your day was good?
Yeah, it's pretty. The weather's pretty ugly out here, so it's been pretty chill.
Okay, okay.
Missing that sunshine. Not
I
gonna
definitely feel
lie.
you on that, yo. So last time you was on the show, we talked a lot. I want to jump back into where it all started from. So for the people that might have missed the first time you was on here, can you tell them where you from?
Yeah. So born in New York, raised in Atlanta, and I've been in North Carolina, for probably like the past like 8 years.
For the past 8 years.
Yeah.
That's dope right there.
Yeah.
So not only are you a business owner, you're also an artist.
Yes.
Definitely, that's dope. Yo, we talked a little bit about that last time about the painting. So let's talk about what first got you into arts and when did you know that was something that you wanted to do?
So I've always been into art. Honestly, I've always liked drawing. I've always liked crafts, stuff like that. That's been ingrained in me since a kid. And my parents always buying my siblings and I coloring books, art kits, stuff like that. Go to my
Right.
grandma's house. We got arts and crafts weekends. So it's just something that's constantly been in front of me. And I guess the more I practice, the more I learn to like it, and the more I realize like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I really started I didn't start taking it serious though until high school. I
Okay.
guess that's when my work really started to get like, I was really starting to find my voice, find my style, and that's when I started to paint actually when I was in high school.
Okay, so you started
Yeah,
painting first.
yeah.
Where do you find your inspiration when you're painting, and who are some of the painters that you look up to?
I've put inspiration from everything, everyone. It can be, the most random moment. I can get an idea, middle of the night, trying to go to sleep. Boom, a random idea for a painting. Let me write that down. I get inspiration from movies, TV shows, just scrolling through Instagram, literally anything. I just try and put my own spin, on the things that I see.
Okay.
And for who inspires me the most, um, when I first started out, I was, and I kind of still am, honestly. I try and pick out black artists. Like I look at black, and I actually just ordered a photo book of black art from the past 100 years. So I'm
Wow.
about to be looking in this and finding out, who these people are that create these works, and just studying what they do. I like Basquiat. That was the first black artist that I ever even heard of.
Right.
Um, and I tried. It's kind of hard, but I've been trying to make it my business to learn more about women artists.
Right.
So I've been looking at the works of Alice Walker, Augusta Savage, and this is across all disciplines. Like some of them are sculptors, some of them are painters. I really like to just immerse myself in art and just get whatever I can out of it.
That's dope right there. And one
Yeah.
thing about art, whether it's music, whether painting, and like you said, sculpting,
Mhm.
black people have been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, like since the beginning of civilization. Like
Right.
I took a class last year, and we were learning about West African history, and the part that really caught my eyes, we were learning about the artwork that they were creating in Africa. They have
Right.
no tools. They got sharp rocks, you know what I'm saying? They got minerals and stuff, and they were making beautiful pieces of work like bust sculptures of people. And I'm like, yo, like how did they do this
Wow.
without having a hammer, without having a chisel, stuff like that. So
Right.
it's really like in us, like it's innate, and it's so cool to see how that transcends all location. Art is something that every culture has in common. We all have some type of way of expressing ourselves, and I really like that.
That's dope right there. So
Right.
you did the studying in school on it. So let me ask you, how has art evolved since back then to now?
Art, I would say art has become much more freeing. Like uh I was actually literally just talking earlier, like I was wondering how did they even make paint back then? Like
Right.
they really had to get like fruits and berries and stuff, and they made their own paint using nature. So that right
Wow.
there, like that is beyond me, because like paint now it costs like a little tube like this could cost like $10. And
Wow.
you know, back then they pick some berries off the ground, mash it up, and they're working on painting. So I think that's really cool. And I feel like another thing, if you look at early art, at least in the United States, it's all white people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it's always been like portraiture of presidents or whoever was important at the time. And as art has evolved, people have become to express themselves differently. Like there's so many different types of art, so many different styles, cubism, surrealism, just a bunch of crazy stuff. And it's like even if your art doesn't fall into one of those categories, you know, it's still art and it's still accepted as such. So I think the limitations of art have fallen off and more things are being considered as art, which I think is great because anybody can create. You know, you don't have to be an artist
Right.
to make something. So I think art has become much more inclusive, much more broad, which I think is a really good thing.
That's dope. Like even on my page every morning, probably like since the beginning of January,
Mm,
I've been doing like a black art painting
mm,
with a quote. But the thing that is so wonderful about, like you said, the African art, black culture,
mm,
is like they did it from nothing. But let
literally.
me ask you a question. You know, this is not a right or wrong answer. You know, I like this. I like to cause a little controversy.
Right.
So now with history, right? So we know from, the paintings and even down to like the sculptures and the monuments and stuff like that.
Mm,
A lot of that stuff is black people, black culture influence.
definitely.
So like with the culture and music and certain things like that, do you think a lot of, or some of it, I'm not going to say a lot, do you think any of this stuff was inspired by black people or
Oh,
even maybe
you had it right the
stolen?
first time. It's a lot of it. It's a
Right.
lot of it. Have you been? I've been watching this documentary on Hulu called it's like a hip hop documentary,
Right.
documentary series. And I've always been into hip hop, but I was like, you know what? Why not just watch it? And I was as I was watching the episodes, they were talking about how hip hop came from the struggle, how it came from the gritty. It was just people talking about their lives. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That was their art. That's how they were expressing themselves. And we're just so naturally cool that everybody thought it was just cool. And now
Right.
we got all these people who don't belong to this culture, who don't know anything about this culture, that are profiting off of this culture. You know what I'm saying? Like we have people. I saw a video of some white rappers in Italy. I'm like, what
Wow.
do y'all know like about this? How did y'all even find out about this? You know what I'm saying? Like that started in the Bronx in the 80s, I think, and it's
Right.
traveled all over the world and it's created its own culture. Like it really has created its own culture. Hip hop culture, of course, black culture isn't just hip hop culture, but
Right.
hip hop culture is black culture, and that is the same for so much stuff, art, different genres of music. So I feel like we're just so cool. Like you can't help but pull inspiration from it. But the thing that I don't like is when people try and appropriate it. Like you can't
Right.
tell us how to do what we created. Um,
I
and I
agree.
feel like if you are going to have that kind of platform, you need to be doing something to give back, to help people, to create a platform to lift up the people who it was really made for,
Right.
instead of gentrifying the genre, trying to make it something that it's not, and that it never was intended to be.
Right. I definitely agree. And like I know being an artist in the music industry, that's been going on for years. They did it with rhythm and blues, they did it with rock
Mm-hmm.
and roll, they
Right.
did it with hip hop. And then, the funny thing about it is like, okay, we had R&B in the 90s, so that was like the soul ballads and the
Mm-hmm.
groups and stuff like that.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, you watch the artists that we like, the singers, which we would consider singers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our singers now, they would classify themselves as pop.
Yeah.
All right, but the crazy thing about it to me is the black singers, they want to be classified as pop. But
Mm-hmm.
then you have people like the Justin Biebers, the I think Ariana Grande on her last album,
Yeah.
they want to be labeled R&B.
Well, okay. Well, I can see why people black people would maybe want to be,
Right.
qualified. I mean, considered pop, because well, the way that I see it is every time there's a new black artist that makes music that you can sway to, it's just automatically R&B. Like
Right.
nobody's taking the time to actually create subgenres like we did with neo soul. Like that's
Right.
R&B, but it's also its own subgenre. So
Right.
it's like now, and I feel like it's because so many, white people are in charge of these labels. Oh, you black, you make nice music, that's going to be R&B. Oh,
Right.
you rap, that's just hip, that's rap. Like nobody's
Right.
taking the time to actually try and oh, these artists, they make R&B, but it sounds a little bit different. Let's put them in this category. So I
Right.
can see how people might not just want to be just another R&B artist. I can get that. But as
Right.
far as like the white people wanting to be in our
Right.
area, I feel like a lot of that is honestly our fault.
Right.
Like we kind of let people just kind of walk all over us. We give everybody this pass, this invitation to the cookout, and we
Right.
don't get anything in return. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll never be invited to their cookout, but we always invite people to our cookout. And I feel like as Black people, like we're very kind at heart, we're very nice, but sometimes, we gotta know when to put our foot down and when to protect our community and protect like our tradition. Because ultimately, like hip hop, R&B, like that's our tradition, that's our culture, and we just let anybody come in here and do what they want to do. And I would like to see, I guess the only way that would work though is if more Black people are starting to manage themselves, running labels, and actually looking out for each other.
Right.
But not all of it is our fault, but I feel like we have a lot of accountability when it comes to those people infiltrating our spaces.
Yeah, that's true. And you said a powerful thing in the last interview, systematic racism.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's like it all ties in together, even with like gentrification and things
Yep.
like that. It's like they take what we have. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, even down to soul food, you can take it back further than that. That was their
Right.
scraps. We made it something beautiful.
Yep.
To them, they didn't value it until it became popular.
Right.
Now it's popular now. We want it back.
Yep. And
So it's like
that's the same cycle every time.
every time. So it's like with the gentrification, with the music, with our culture,
Hmm.
it's like we're creative. So by nature, it's like we the rose that grew from the concrete. We take
Right.
the impossible and make it possible.
Right.
Then once it becomes popular, they come in and take over. But
Yep.
it's like, do you think we don't value each other? We think we don't value our heritage? We don't know the importance until somebody else says that's worth something? Or do you
Well,
think that
Well, I feel like it's not necessarily that we don't value it, but like you were getting ready to say, a lot of us just don't know it. Like art history has been so watered down, and
right,
we've just gotten the winning side. You know what I'm saying? We don't really get the Black perspective of the Black experience. We always get it through the white perspective.
right,
And I feel like that alone, you're gonna be missing stuff out because only Black people could tell the story the way Black people can tell the story. You know what I'm saying?
that's a
And
fact.
and then like that even goes back to back to Africa, like the way we were sharing information was orally, like we were telling stories, you know what I'm
Right,
saying? And that was just how we did. But I guess, once you start getting too comfortable with other people and you
right,
start trusting their intentions too much, or the money looks good, you know what I'm saying? That kind of messes people's heads up. And I feel like if we were taught the value, like whether it be in school or at home, if we were able to learn that value, if we were able to even know our history, where we come from, I'm sure we would hold it, to a higher regard. But just the fact that you don't know, like you don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
no,
So
that's fact.
it's not necessarily intentional, but you can't look it up if you don't know what you're supposed to look up. So
That's
there,
true.
and that's back to that whole systematic racism thing. It's
Right,
just a cycle to keep putting us down. But of the people who are able to make it out, I do feel like they kind of owe it to the community to provide those resources. And that's definitely something I want to do. Like, if
right,
I was able to get it out the mud, I shouldn't just, oh, y'all don't deserve it because y'all didn't do it. No, I'm going to, make it easier for other people to get it out the mud, or make it so other people might not have to even get it out the mud.
right,
Put resources out there to educate people and to uplift people. And we don't get enough of that in our community. Like, Jay-Z and Beyonce, okay, they're billionaires,
right,
but what are they doing for us? Like, they might have their own little organizations, blah, 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 but like, we be having national crises in all kind of Black communities all the
right,
time across the country, you know what I'm saying? And where are the Jay-Z's and Beyonce's then? So it's cool we have a Black, I guess it's cool to have a Black billionaire, whatever, but it's like, what are they doing for everybody else? And
right,
even Jay-Z said himself, like, your value should be based on how many people you're helping around you, not just, oh, I have all this money. So I feel like we still have a lot of progress. We still got a lot of progress to go.
we definitely have a lot of work to do. And you just said a powerful thing. It's like, because we taught to try and get it out the mud and make it happen.
Right.
And sometimes, even not consciously, like we may not unknowingly know, sometimes we step on a lot of people to get ahead of our own
Yep.
people.
Yep.
Trip them, they at the finish line, they might get in front of it, they might win the race before me, and we tripping them. But
Exactly.
it's like that divide and conquer thing.
Right. And I feel like only we are taught that we have to get out the mud because
Right.
like I said, we don't have those resources. Our parents might not have been that educated, but I'm sure, you know, white people, they have those resources. So their parents are probably teaching them, use your resources to get up. And we have to learn it a totally different way. So we don't end up with that same outcome. We don't always end up at the top, and it's not even always our fault. So it's just such a hard thing to endure. And then people wonder, you know, why we are the way that we are. And it's like, you have to think about the stuff that we're going through to even be afloat right now, because we're definitely, I would say, of course, we've made progress over the past 400 years, you know, to some extent, but we still got a long ways to go. And everybody's always got something to say about what we're doing, but nobody's helping. You know what I'm saying? It's like, put your money where your mouth is, like literally, because we need a lot in our community, and it can't just be fixed, you know, overnight.
That's a fact right there. And one thing that I can say about you, you definitely have a spirit to help others, and that's one thing that I like about you. And your story, you're making it happen. You got it out the mud,
Right.
but not only are you getting it out the mud, you're helping and you're educating other people. And believe it or not, I'm a little older than you, but that's an inspiration to me, and that makes me look up to you for one, being a black woman. My mother's black, you know, my
Right.
family, the women in my family are black. So
Mhm.
to be a black woman owning a business, not only do you own a business, you're in school. Not only are you in school, you're aware. So it's like when we talk about these issues, these topics right here,
Mhm.
you hold that dear to your heart.
Definitely.
Where did that come from?
Ultimately, that came from my parents. Like, my father, he was very pro-black. He always, you know, pushed that kind of stuff on me. I was watching the Malcolm X movie at like 7 years old. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And even like my grandparents, they taught me a lot about that stuff. Like, my granddad, he was a teacher for like 20 years in the Bronx. Yeah, so and that was back, you know, in the 80s and the 90s. So he taught me a lot about the stuff that was going on back then and what that experience was like and who were the people that were the leaders and stuff like that. And I've always just taken a liking to that. They would put me on to like old school music, and just hearing that kind of stuff, it just made me want to know more. Like, okay, what were y'all doing back then? Who are these people? And for some reason, I could just relate to it in some way, because these people, just so innovative, so creative, just so hungry for change and leadership, like that has just always, I guess, constantly digesting the information as I was maturing, getting older, and actually experiencing that stuff for myself. I'm like, okay, I kind of want to be like these people. You know, let me learn from them. So when I was in high school, I would say for like the first 2 years, I was just heavy on buying books and doing research and watching documentaries. And a lot of it was on, had to start with slavery and stuff like that. But I was like, okay, this isn't it. Like, my father was telling me, like, we don't just come from slaves. Our history is way more extensive than that. And so, and what he would do, he would never tell me all of it. Like, he'd give me a couple points, go look it up. So I'm looking it up. I'm looking at all these documentaries. I'm learning stuff that I wasn't supposed to be learning, but I'm digesting that information, and it became me. It became something I'm very passionate about. Growing up in Atlanta, such a black city, and coming to North Carolina, living in a white city, I just saw a lot of problems and a lot of things that I wish were different. And like, you know what? I can't fix everything, but I can fix some stuff. So I'm going to learn how to fix the things that I can fix. And that's kind of what brought me to this brand. Like, at first, I didn't really know what the purpose of it was. But as I started to pay attention to the things that I'm drawing, pay attention to the things that I'm constantly looking at, reading, I'm like, okay, this means something to me. So let me figure out how I can put this out in a positive, proactive way. And ultimately, all that studying and all that passion for pro-blackness and black love, but all that stuff, it just turned into something beautiful. And I have the brand, which is like my version of the physical manifestation of all that hard work, all that research, all that passion. So it's really exciting to even be able to have something like this.
That's dope. And that was what I was gonna tie into. So to go from the art to the actual clothing, how did you make that transition?
Well, I did. I was interested in clothing, but I didn't really know much about it. And there weren't people around me that knew about it. By the time I was interested in it, I was living in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And that's just a small city, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't necessarily a lot of people that I could look up to who were doing the things that I wanted to do specifically. Right. So I didn't really have nowhere else to find it. So I went straight to Google, straight to YouTube. I was figuring out, what would be most cost efficient for me to do? T-shirts. So I figured out what kind of t-shirts do I want? Where can I get these t-shirts from? What methods can I put my art on these t-shirts from? And so as I was doing my research, I just tried it out by putting the things that I would paint or draw, just putting it on clothes, see what it looked like. And, over time, I figured out what worked, what didn't work, what looked good. And like, I still look at it as just putting my art on t-shirts, whether it's words or anything. It's still art to me at the end of the day. So I don't feel like it was really necessarily a transition, just switching the medium. Like, I used to paint in acrylic paint, now I paint in oil paint. I used to just draw on paper. Now I'm putting my drawings on clothes. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely a lot to learn. But as far as the physical act of putting my art on clothes, I feel like, it's the same thing to me. It's just a different canvas.
That's dope right there. So it's like an evolution almost. It's growth.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I hope, in the next 5 to 10 years, I'll have evolved to some other way of putting my art out here for the world.
That's dope right there. So let me ask you, do you remember your first piece that you made?
Yes, I remember my first piece. It was a hoodie, and I'll never forget it because I made it on Custom Ink. And Custom Ink was like that company that will print shirts for your events, stuff like that. So okay, boom, this is the only place I know about. And it was a drawing called Like Minded. It was 2 people. It was a man and a woman, and their heads were shaped like flowers. So my idea was to try and show, how we may be different. We might have certain things that keep us apart, but at the end of the day, like, there's something within us all that is the same, So that was the idea I was trying to convey with that. And I put it on the hoodies, and I sold hoodies mainly to my family and stuff. But because of that website, they took so much of the profit. Like, I remember I calculated how much I was supposed to get, and in all, I should have made $600. They gave me like 100. I was like, oh, no, sir. Yeah, I was like, all this hard work. And I didn't know anything about marketing and stuff at the time. So I'm really like DMing all my family, hey, I'm making these hoodies, blah, blah, blah. And they gave me $100. And I think, honestly, that was what really made me want to go into business for myself. Because I was like, I did all this work. All y'all did was print it and ship it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I came up with the idea. I drew it. I picked the colors. So from that moment, I really started to figure out how can I start my own brand. And since then, I was like, we can't do that. So ultimately, I've been trying to learn how I can best cut out the middleman. So I taught myself how to screen print, all that stuff. I ended up finding like local places to get my artwork printed. And, as I start to get more resources, I hope one day, to produce all my own things myself, or at least, through a Black-owned business. Because another thing I'm very passionate about is, the Black dollar. Because based on my research, the Black dollar stays in the Black community for 7 minutes before it's out of our pockets. And I was like, and I had to really put that into perspective. Like, you buy from a Black business, cool, they got your money, they got to pay their rent, or they got to buy some, new inventory. It's already out of our community. So that's another thing that I really want to work towards one day. If I can't have it all in-house, I want to have a Black supplier. I want to have a Black printer, stuff like that. So it's really a learning progress, but I know it'll be good. It'll be really good at the end.
That's dope. So let's talk about the beginning. You know what I'm saying? You started the company in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you?
16. I was about 15, 16 years old when I started.
15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
What made you say, I want to start a company?
All in all, I think it's just something that I had always wanted to do for some reason. Like, I couldn't remember having sketchbooks when I was younger, and I would just draw clothes, outfits that I thought was nice, or outfits that I wish I could make one day. And then, like, you know what, I know how to draw. I got YouTube, all these free instructions, let's just figure it out. And honestly, at first, I wasn't really expecting it to become a brand. I was just making clothes. Like, I didn't have a name. I don't think I had a name at first for a while. I was just making stuff. People were liking it. Oh, can I get one? How much are you charging? Okay, cool. Like, but as I started to do more research and also figure out like my career path, kind of, I figured out how to make it more professional and how to actually make it into a business. And then from a business, how to make it into a brand. And I honestly feel like within the past couple of years, I'm just now figuring out like how to make it into a brand. Because you can have a business, but a business and a brand, they're not always, the same thing. So as I started learning more and just taking it upon myself to figure it out, I was just able to put it together, make it more cohesive. And honestly, I'm still learning. Like, I don't have all of my documents and paperwork figured out now, but like I said, it's a learning process. And I'm in school right now for business management, so I'm using all those resources too to try and figure out, how to make my brand the best brand that it could be. And it's coming along good. Honestly, I like the journey of having to figure it out all for myself, because it's like, once you figure it out for yourself, nobody can tell you nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know how to do this. Like, you can't play me. Like, I studied this kind of thing. So you kind of protect yourself when you learn how to do it yourself. And then I feel like learning how to do it yourself also is easier to teach other people. And I like teaching and, educating other people. So being that my journey is so personal to me, that makes it easier, because I was going through the same thing that they were going through, but I figured it out on my own. You know what I'm saying? So now I can show you how to figure it out, or now I can provide you the resources for you to figure it out. So
that's dope right there. Yeah. So, I keep hearing you say two key words. I did the research, you studied, and you read.
Yeah.
A lot of times with us, we have the talent. We focus on the talent, but we don't focus on the research and the business side of things. You said an important thing. You said a lot of people can have a business, but they don't have a brand.
Right.
Can you break that down a little bit? So if I got a talent, I want to start a business, but I also want to build my brand. So if I'm coming to you for help and I'm saying, yo, Jewel, I need some help, break it down to me, like the differences and what each one means.
Okay, well, to me, and based on, my knowledge, a business is just like a function. A business, you're paying for something and you're getting something in return. That's a transaction. That's a transaction is a part of business. You can do that all day. Selling drugs is a business. You know what I'm saying? So you can have a business in anything. But like with a brand, like your brand has its own identity. Your brand is its own entity. So yes, it functions like a business, but you treat it more so like a person. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to figure out what you want this brand to say, how you want this brand to look, who you want to represent this brand. So there's so much more. I feel like a brand is more personal. A business is, generic. You can have a billion businesses, but brands are, they'll have a message a lot of the times. And it'll be more tailored to their target audience, because they're trying to, create some kind of relationship with their customers. And that's something that I've been learning is the biggest thing about having a brand is your relationship with your audience, because like especially when it comes to a small business, like you have to facilitate that trust, especially now where we're in the height of scammers and stuff like that. Like you really have to show people what is so special about your business. So you have to give it an identity. You have to make it stand out, and it has to be something that people can relate to. And I feel like a lot of people don't take the time to do that because everybody just wants to make money. But like that's just not how business works. You know what I'm saying? Like even Amazon, it's a business, but that's a brand. You think of Amazon, you think of Prime Delivery. They're gonna give me my stuff quick, or they have everything that I want. You know what I'm saying? So those are characteristics of that brand. And that's ultimately what people remember those businesses for. Like subconsciously, every time we're thinking about something, oh, I need to buy this. Let me see if Amazon has it. You know what I'm saying? So they have created that identity, and they can relate to you and fix your problems so much that it's become important. So I feel like brand, like being able to create a successful brand image is what will ultimately make a business, thrive.
That makes sense right there. And that's real. I study a lot of business and marketing on my own. So you're definitely right on those key points you're making. We're going to jump into your brand and your business, but I have one more question before we start. How did you market your company? Now that you started the business, you turned it into a brand. What was the next step to start?
Yeah, so I had to figure out my brand voice. I had to figure out what message I was trying to figure out. What I was trying to communicate to people, because like before I started really having a marketing plan, I noticed there were certain things, certain words. I was thinking, okay, let me give it to you like this. The first step that I took was I figured out what words do I want people to think of when they see my brand. So one day I just wrote out a bunch of words. I even asked my friends, like, yo, what you think of? Give me one word when you hear Black Jewels, or when you see my page, what's one thing you think of? So putting all those together, and I noticed, they all flow together. They had something in common. So from those words, I was like, okay, these words are representative of my brand. They characterize my brand. So let's put this into a message. So from the stuff people were telling me, they was getting good vibes or unity or blackness, something like that. And
Right.
so from all that, you got to make it, got to condense it. So I was like, this brand, I can use this brand to bring people together, to make people feel better about themselves, and to unify people, and those people, namely Black people. And from picking those words and condensing them into a way that is more easy to understand, I was able to translate that, into images and stuff like that. So not only did I start, well, honestly, I had always done that, but, having Black people in my marketing pictures, I always wanted, if this is supposed to be a Black brand, it needs to be Black people wearing it. And I kind of had to teach myself to become more comfortable with that, because people were telling me, and now that I've learned, it's so dumb, but people were telling me, you can't just build a brand off of this racial identity, blah, blah, blah. It has to be this, has to be that. So after you get past all those people's voices and figure out what your brand really means to you, like, it gave me the confidence, okay, like, this is a Black brand, and I'm not scared to say that it's a Black brand. You know what I'm saying? I'm never going to say, oh, only Black people can wear my stuff, but this is a brand catered to Black people. And I had to make sure that I was reflecting that in, like I said, my pictures, and even so my designs. So whenever I'm coming up with a new concept, it's always got to be related to that brand message, or I'm just not going to make it. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn to not be selfish either, because at first I was making things, that I liked, but I'm like, okay, this doesn't match with the brand identity. This doesn't match with the message. So I had to teach myself to only create within that message. And it might sound like a limitation, but it actually made it more, it made it easier, because I'm like, okay, this is what the people like. The people are telling me what they like based on what they're buying from me. You know what I'm saying? So after understanding that, I was able to further like fine tune my brand. And I don't know what I was scared of, because people really like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, lots of people hit me up all the time saying that they like my brand. And that's what stands out to me. Because it's not like, oh, I like your business, or I like your t-shirts. I like your brand. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm doing something right. This is something that you can identify. So from that, I changed my logo. My logo didn't even look like, this is my logo. Ooh, this is my logo now. But it didn't even used to look like this. It used to be it was like a yin yang sign, like it was kind of a different interpretation of a yin yang sign. Right. But when I did this collection is actually what made me change the logo. And I was thinking about it, and I was okay, Black is beautiful. That's definitely a brand message. And then just this little flower that I created, like, it's just supposed to represent like the different shades of melanin or whatever. And I was just looking at it, and a couple people were like, you should make that your logo. I'm like, nah. But then I was like, hold on, this is a good idea. Like, this, if anything, this speaks to my brand message so much more, and it's original. You're never gonna see anything like this, and if you do, they probably stole it from me. But
it's a fact right there.
It's original. It stands out. People are going to remember it, and that's probably the biggest takeaways for building a brand. Making something original, making something that's unforgettable, and making something that people will want to be a part of. Like, it's not even so much as supporting, but people actually want to be a part of it, or they see it, as a movement, or they see it as a community. That is very, very important when you're trying to establish a brand, in my opinion.
That's very true. So when you hear the name Black Jewels, I think power. I think powerful. Think of community, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to communicate to people. Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name?
How did that come? Okay, so back when I was in about high school, me and my dad, we would always just have these talks, and he would be dropping knowledge on me or whatever, but he always considered dropping jewels. And so that's just always something that stuck with me, and that's also my nickname, Jules. My family called me that a lot. So that's, a word that I was always hearing. And initially, like, that was another one of my missions with this brand, is I wanted to find a way to give knowledge to people without having to be in a book. You know what I'm saying? And the knowledge that I'm giving is like knowledge of self. Black is beautiful. You affirming that. That's a jewel to be dropped. You know what I'm saying? And then Black, the Black part stands for itself. But like you said, it's supposed to be a powerful thing. When you hear jewels, that sounds fancy. That sounds like it's of high value. And ultimately, that's what I want people to feel when they're wearing my products, because Black people, like, we like to look good, and we'll spend money on looking good. And it's like, I don't only want you to look good, I want you to feel good. Like, I want you to feel the clothes that you're wearing. When you're wearing that Black is Beautiful shirt, I want you to believe that, and you see yourself in the mirror or whatever, like, to reaffirm that. So all of that, goes back into the power, like you said, the power of the name. And just seeing something like that, like, that's a bold statement. There's not a lot of brands that will, even if they are Black owned, they don't have any, attachment to that in their name. So I'm like, F it, I'll do it. Why not? So that's kind of my way to, the name actually is kind of a way to brand myself too. Just by reading the name and seeing the logo, you can kind of already get the gist of what you're about to get into. So yeah, that's how I came up with that.
That's dope. Me and your dad must be from the same era, because
Right.
a lot of me and my friends, my brothers and stuff like that, we say dropping jewels.
Yep.
We drop, even in our music. Yeah, we got to put a jewel in there.
Right.
So I can tell your dad is from that era, because that is pretty much knowledge.
But basically,
you're dropping knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So when you say Black jewels, it's knowledge itself, identity. I can see myself with that brand. So Black jewels, you created the brand, the business. Now you're branding it. What are some of the adversities that you had to face in the beginning to now?
Number one would probably be the lack of resources. And lack of resources meaning like a mentor, somebody that I can ask. Because in North Carolina, it's pretty urban, but it's all, people don't have that same kind of mindset. Like, if you were in a big city, it'd probably be easier to find people that are into fashion. But in this city, or at least the cities that I've lived in North Carolina, and I'm probably North Carolina as a whole, pretty sure. But there's just not that fashion mindset here. So I wasn't able to really find people who were in the industry that I wanted to know about. So that was really hard. And just not having somebody to talk to me, that also means, I wasn't able to find all that information. It wasn't, just given to me. So I didn't even know the things that I was supposed to be looking up at that point. So it really, like I said, it really took a lot of buying books. Like, I was buying books all the time. I was always looking for documentaries, just following people on social media, trying to learn their story, just looking up anybody I've ever known that was Black and ran a clothing brand. Like, I would look up, Cross Colors. I would look at their marketing, or look at how their clothes looked, or try and get a backstory. What about like FUBU, stuff like that, So I kind of had to use those resources, and that was hard too, because those brands, they were popping 20 years ago. So, what I'm saying? So the steps that they took, I might not even be able to take at this point. Like, that might be outdated. So it was very difficult to figure out where to start too. I didn't know business-minded people, and granted, my parents were always, yeah, you could do it. And it's like, yeah, I could do it, but I don't know how, like, they could give me all the motivation in the world. Yeah, but it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Y'all don't know what I'm doing, so it was really difficult. But I just had to keep my mind open to anything and everything, and just try and use all the free resources that I have. They call it bootstrapping. I did a lot of that, and I still do a lot of that, because it's still, I still don't really have somebody that I could, hey, what should I do about this? I'm kind of my own source of guidance. So it's a lot of pressure, because, you see all these people who are self-made, but it makes you think that you're supposed to be how they are. But it's like, a lot of these people aren't self-made. You don't really get their backstory. So a lot of these people were born into families that had resources and had wealth and had family businesses, so they already knew. But like my family and most Black families, we don't have that kind of stuff. So I really had to just dig, and I didn't start hitting gold until the past couple years. And like I said, I've been started working on this since 2016. So I kind of had to be humble in a sense, and just willing to try anything, because I didn't know what I was doing. But as I, went to college and just became more open-minded and started asking more questions and just took things upon myself, things started working out. I started figuring things out, and now I'm in a position where, I don't know everything. I'm not an expert yet, but I'm in a position where I can teach other people. People are coming to me and trusting the advice that I'm giving them and starting their own initiatives. Like, just recently, my aunt, I stayed with her for a while I was at NC State in Raleigh,
Right.
and she was constantly seeing me working, having stuff all over her house, packing up my orders, and she just started her own business. And I think stuff like that is so amazing.
Right.
And she didn't have those resources either, but she would ask me all those questions, and I had those answers because I was digging. You know what I'm saying? And now, since all my digging has put me in a place where I can give that information back to other people, and they can create something for themselves and possibly keep repeating that cycle. And
That's
that's a
so
beautiful thing to me, because like, especially being able to do that with nothing. So when you have something, actually have something you can offer, it'll be even an even better reward, and even better help to
right.
people. And I think that's awesome. And I'm just so hell bent on being the change that I want to see in the world. Like, there's so many things that could be fixed. We could talk about that all day, but it's like, at the end of the day, what you really gonna do?
Right.
And nobody can save the world, but like I said, I'm gonna keep doing whatever little things I can do with my platform to make a difference every day.
That's dope, yo. And one thing I hear and one thing that I admire, even when I was scrolling and I seen you for the first time and I
Mm,
was rolling by and I seen it jumped out at me because I'm definitely from the struggle. I'm definitely for the pro black. I'm definitely for the movement.
mm,
So when I seen this shirt, I think it was I think y'all had like a photo shoot or something. It was you and a couple other people in the
mm,
brand. And I seen it and I'm like, yo, this is dope. But I never knew you was in NNC or none of that. I never knew nothing about you.
mm,
This is dope. So it grabs me now. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a black owned company. Then I see you. I say, wait a minute, hold on. Like this black woman owns the company.
mm.
Then I know, okay, I can look at you and tell you're not 40 years old.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, so she really has a company. So then I followed you, and as I began to watch your posts and watching, how we do on Instagram,
Hmm.
people make posts, you start seeing more and more.
Right.
So then I found the website, and I'm looking, and I'm like, yo, so I never knew your age at the time, but I'm like, yo, so she started this business. That's inspiring to me because with all the distractions and ideas that people have in the world, it's like a
Mm,
lot of times we sit on them. It's people that's 30, 35, 40 years old that has these brilliant ideas. They've been keeping notes for years,
mm-hmm.
but they never got started.
Right.
They have a million excuses. Well, I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't, and it's like nothing wrong with that. You took that and you made it happen. And that what I'm trying to say is that inspired me and that's what caught my attention. Like, yo, this woman has that go get a mentality.
Mm,
That's black excellence. So then now we get to talking, and I realize, okay, you didn't have everything handed to you. You didn't have, like you said, you wasn't with a family like, yo, here's the gold card. Go get whatever you need.
right.
You, when everybody else would have gave up, you kept going.
Mm,
Not only did you keep going, you're a full-time student,
yep.
running a business. You have a personal life. You're not 40, so you still having your fun.
Right. Yeah.
Running a business, school, and you're
Mm,
majoring in business management,
yes.
which is not easy.
No.
Business management is definitely not easy.
Not at all.
How do you hold it all together?
Well, I would say I'm pretty tough. Like,
Right.
just mentally, spiritually, I feel like that's just something that runs in my family. But outside of that, having such a big support system is so important. Like, my mom, my dad, my aunt, I was just telling you about, my siblings,
Right.
my boyfriend. These are the people that I know are always going to support me. Even if my work is trash, you know what I'm saying? They're still going to uplift me, motivate me. And if I'm having a problem, they might not understand how I can fix it. They might not be able to understand the language, but they're always there to listen. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? When I first started, um, my mom, she bought, all the stuff that I made. And now looking back at it, I'm like, wow, that was so ugly. But she was supporting me. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And having people just telling you that you can do it, that I feel like that is such a big part of it. And I feel like anybody who has a business needs a support team. No
Right.
matter how many people, it could just be one person, but you gotta have somebody that's gonna tell you to keep going. Or you just have to really find your why. Like, it might not even be a person, but you have to figure out why you're doing it. And for me, another thing my dad told me, when he first saw how serious I was about my art, he was like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, what do you mean, why I'm doing it? He's like, are you in it for the money or are you in it for the culture? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was like 16, so
Right.
I was like,
At the
I don't
time,
really know.
right. I got to think
Yeah,
about
and
it.
so as time went on, I was realizing like, this is something that I would do if I never got paid for it ever again. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? This is something that is very important to me, and that's because I have a reason that I'm doing. I want to be this change in the world. I want to make sure my family's good, down the road. So just having those things on my back, like that's just something I can't give up on. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I'm carrying too much to just let it go, and I just have a lot of confidence in myself. You have to, because there's going to be so many reasons why you shouldn't start your business, why you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. And if you keep listening to them, you're not going to start. I tell people all the time, like the hardest thing for me, and I'm sure probably every other entrepreneur, is just getting started, because there's a lot of people that don't have those resources. There's going to be a lot of doubters. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you have to have that ability to block all that out and have that tunnel vision for success. Because nobody's really going to understand why you're doing what you're doing like you do. So it's very important to build that relationship and transparency with yourself to know why, because if you don't have a reason why, as soon as something goes wrong, you're prone to drop it. Right. But something that you fought for is going to be so much harder to let go of. And I've put in a lot of hard work into this business, and for a while I was rushing myself. I'm like, wow, I haven't made this much sales yet. Like, what's going on? But at the end of the day, it's like, you got to trust the process too, because nothing is overnight. I remember I read something that was saying to be an overnight success takes 10 years. I was like, wow, like there really is no overnight success. Like even with people that are going, their business is going viral and stuff like that. Sometimes like that'll be all the buzz that they get, like, yeah, you'll have a really good month, but that's it. Yeah. So you really got to stay, you got to trust the path. You got to be confident, and you got to have people who are always, people you can fall back on, people who are always going to motivate you and just give you positivity whenever you need it.
That's dope. And one thing about it, adversity will prove how bad you really want something.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because there's been a lot of times where I second guessed it. I was like, man, if I miss this goal one more time, like I might just quit. It might not just be, it just might not be for me. But it's like you never know when that day is gonna come where everything changes. It only takes one day to change your life. So I try to be open minded to that, and I try and just, not to have too many expectations. Like, oh, by the time I'm 24, my business is gonna have this much money. You know what I'm saying? But I can have a goal like by the time I'm 24, I want to have reached this many people, or enacted this new method into my business. You know what I'm saying? So you can't micromanage yourself either, because a lot of the times we might fall short of the goals that we set for ourselves. But just because you fall short doesn't mean you can't try again. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no deadline, especially for a small business. Like nobody's on your back saying, you have to make this much money or you can never be a business owner again. So you really gotta be level headed. And people who are just in business just to make money, that's not a good idea, because it's not gonna work out like that in the beginning.
Yeah, most of them don't last, and like you said, it's gonna take time.
Exactly.
But the thing about your story that's so interesting is like you're learning the skill, you're teaching other people now, so you have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in school to get the certification.
Right.
That you can't put a price on.
Right. Yeah. Knowledge is priceless. And one thing that I've been doing lately is I've been investing in myself so much more. Like before, I didn't really know much about investing, period. But like I recently hired a business consultant, and she gave me a strategy, and that was something I had never done before. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should do this. It was like $95. Like, oh, I don't know. But then I'm thinking like this $95 that I put into growing my brand, or having somebody tell me how to grow my brand, I could triple that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm the only person who knows how much money that I can make from my brand. You know what I'm saying? I'm the only one who can turn $95 into 9,500. You know what I'm saying? So after shifting my mindset to this is an investment, as opposed to, oh, I have to pay this. You know what I'm saying? It's all in how you look at it. So once I was able to change my mindset, okay, I'm putting this money in and I'm going to make more. I'm going to make more connections. I'm going to meet more people. So when I was able to think like that, I was able to translate that into so many other areas, of my life. So it not only helps me grow my business, but even just personal development. When you have that positive mindset, it just makes life, I wouldn't say easier, but it makes it so much more easier to understand and to just be comfortable with the journey.
That's true. And I had a person tell me one time they kind of do like business strategy, self motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And they said an interesting thing one time. They said a lot of times, we wait for the new year to come in and we make these resolutions. They said what they do is kind of like you said with the reaffirming yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They said at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the month, how often it's up to that person how often they decide to do it.
Right.
But they said what they would do is they would look at themselves as where they're going,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be writing an affirmation to themselves as today where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like you, where you see yourself in 5 years. You're talking to Jewel in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you can make it. You're gonna do it. It
And that's a
wasn't
that's a
easy.
very good approach too. You got
You know,
to instill those good mental habits, because everybody's always so, well, what can I do? What can I do? Like, you got to kind of look beneath that. Like, how are you thinking? How are you feeling?
right?
That's very, very important. And that kind of stress, if you put that into the business, it's not gonna work out. You
It's
got to
not gonna
have
work.
that hopeful, positive mindset. Because business ain't always pretty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was setting these goals for myself last year, and I was just missing all of them. And I was like, yo, like, what's going on? But I had to reevaluate. I'm like, okay, just because I was basing that goal off of, like, of the Black is Beautiful, because that was my best seller. So I was like,
Right,
oh, I need to top that. But, like, it's the best seller. Like, you might not top that, and that's okay.
right,
So I had to kind of settle myself down and be more open minded. And when I was able to stop micromanaging myself, at first I was like, okay, I need to make this much money per month. Now I'm like, okay, how about I shoot for this goal quarterly? You know what I'm
right,
saying? To give myself more time to make it happen, give myself time for error. And that made me feel so much more relief,
right.
because I'm not being so hard on myself, and I don't have these fixed expectations. I'm open to anything.
That's dope.
Yeah.
And the thing, even with the campaigns, it's kind of like you have brothers and sisters, right?
Right.
So it's like kind of like your parents. They love all y'all the same,
Mm-hmm.
but you're all different.
Right.
So you have the Black and Beautiful campaign. You may have this campaign. They're still your babies.
Right.
You love them both. Black and Beautiful might have did this.
Mm-hmm.
This one may do that. The third one may do this.
Exactly. And you never know, but you got to stick to it to even find that out.
You got to stick to it, yo. That's a beautiful thing. So, what's one of the best moments in art that you had, and one of your best moments with the business that stands out the most to you?
With art, okay, so last year, um, I was making a lot more canvas paintings, and I was selling them, here and there, and then it was just quiet for a while, and I was just like, wow, this is whack. Like, I've been putting in all this work, and now nobody, want to talk. And it's crazy because I was putting out so much content. I was doing
Right.
like time lapse videos, my artwork. I was doing everything that I thought was right, and nothing was working out. And then literally one random week, somebody had saw one of my paintings on Twitter, and they were like, "How much?" And I get that question all the time, like, "Yeah, it's
Right.
this much, blah blah," and then people don't buy it. But I said, they said how much, and I
Right.
told them, boom, they sent it to me. I was like, "Oh, okay." And then later
Right.
that week, somebody else, they bought two paintings. I was like, "Yo, I sold three paintings in the span of like 7 days." So I was,
Oh, wow.
I was up. I
You
was very
excited, right?
excited. Yeah,
Right.
and that just let me know, like, I just gotta keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's not hitting the immediate moment that I say it's for sale, that doesn't mean that it's never gonna sell, that nobody likes it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So that was a big accomplishment for me. I was very excited about that. And when those people like hung the artwork up and they showed me a picture of it, I was like, wow, like, this is amazing. Like, these people actually, saw the value in my work,
Right.
and they decided, they wanted this in their house. So I thought that was really cool. And for my business, it's definitely when I'm out in public and people will recognize me, or people will recognize what I'm wearing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've made
Right.
sales just being out. Like, they were like, yeah, I like that, da da da. You got any on you? Yep. And they just buy it right then and there. I'm
Wow.
like, oh, okay, this is lit. So stuff like that, like seeing that. And then to me, some people might, oh, I'm famous, I'm a celebrity, blah, blah, blah. But the way I see it, it's like, okay, I'm doing something right. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? All this work that I'm putting in, people are recognizing me, people that I've never seen before. You know what I'm saying? They are able to put the face with the brand. And
Right.
that's very important to me. That's just a message to me, okay, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's hope, you got to trust the path and stuff like that. It really, I don't know, it really excites me because it just gives me like a glimpse into the future. I'm like, okay, if I'm doing this now, I could be doing this, later. So it just gives me something to look forward to. I like stuff like that.
That's dope. So let me ask you a question. I'm kind of getting in your business a little bit. You can tell me to back off, but it's not that type of business question.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. When I say business, literally, because you're a businesswoman.
Okay.
So
Right.
question. I do this for real. I do this journalism stuff for real. But
All
no,
right.
check it for real. So, all right. With painters and artists and stuff
Mm,
like that, these museums and stuff, this stuff, is worth millions of dollars,
mm,
right? On one hand, you're an artist. You wear one hat, you're an artist.
mm,
You sold paintings and stuff like that. On the other hand, you're a business owner, a
mm,
clothing line. Where do you see yourself ultimately when it's all said and done?
mm,
What's your legacy? How do you want people to remember you? And I'm not saying when I say your legacy, I'm not talking about your funeral or none of that. I'm talking about
right.
it could be
Yeah.
a success story.
Mm.
Where do you see yourself? And what are they saying?
Honestly, my legacy is more on the philanthropic route. Like
Right.
this art and clothing and stuff is just the platform that I'm able to do that right now. It makes the most sense, it's most efficient. But like in 20 years, yeah, people are gonna know I'm an artist, people are gonna know I have a brand, but I want people to know, like, yeah, she opened up this gallery for other artists. You know what I'm saying? Like she opened
Right.
up a gallery for emerging black artists, or she opened up a store where I can sell my black business, my black owned business clothing, stuff like that. So I want people to know about, all the stuff that I did, but I want them to know me more for being a leader and the things that I've been able to do for my community, as
Right.
opposed to, oh yeah, she's the one who did that painting. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's cool, and of course I would love that, but that's just a piece of the pie.
Right.
Ultimately, I want to do so much more than just art and clothes. I really want to create opportunities for people like who were me back, like when I'm 40. I want to create opportunities for 21-year-old me.
Right.
So that's my biggest thing. Of course I'm still gonna paint,
Right.
then, and probably I might make clothes then, but in
Right.
the long run, that's what I want people to know me for.
Wow. That's dope. A greater purpose.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
See, now you see, I was gonna leave you alone, but see, you done opened up a door. See, that's what you do. You open this door. Art gallery.
Mm,
Okay. Let's take it back. We're talking about art. Art
mm,
gallery. It's like a museum almost.
basically.
You want to open one.
Right. So,
Tell me
well,
about it. I want to know
uh,
all about it because that's dope. I don't know. All right. I don't
mm,
know anybody that's sitting there, sitting around
mm,
saying, yo, I want to open a gallery.
mm,
Your mind is beyond your years. That's Harlem Renaissance type thinking.
exactly. Yes.
I
So,
want to. I want all the Kool Aid. Let's get.
okay,
Let's get
so
it.
the reason that I even want to open the gallery is, throughout my art journey, I've been to a lot of art galleries, and for starters, not a lot of black art. I've been
Right.
to I've been to most of the art galleries in DC, like the National Portrait Gallery, the National Gallery of Art, blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, this is nice art, but I don't like this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I can't relate to any of this art. I don't know who these people are in this artwork. It's just not it for me. And so after I went, and that was like a random trip to DC. So after that trip, I was like, okay, I want to find some black museums. And I
Wow.
found, Studio Museum in Harlem. I found some museums, I think in Atlanta, and I was looking at like the requirements to get into these museums, and it was just like some crazy stuff, lots of money, and it's just really hard.
Wow.
And I even, tried submitting my artwork to certain art gallery competitions, and I would never win. I was like, okay, like I'm putting in, and you had to pay application fees. I'm like, okay, I'm paying money for people just to not, like, this is not it.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, like, I might not have this right now, but one day, I want to be able to have a place for emerging artists to put their artwork in a gallery, because I was learning, what I just, after, all that stuff didn't work out for me. I'm like, okay, what does it take to have art in a gallery? There's just all these requirements. I'm like, this is too much. Who made up these rules? Who's to say that we have to continue following these rules? Like, what about people like me? Because I know a lot of artists who are like myself, who don't have the resources to get into a museum, who don't have a curator, who's just out there, like, they don't have art collectors. So what about the people like me? And I feel like we still have good art, you know what I'm saying? Like, the techniques are there, the composition is there, but nobody's there to buy it. There's no way for us to put it in the museum. So my idea is, in the next, 5 to 10 years, to have a museum that's dedicated to emerging Black artists. So that meaning people who aren't famous artists yet. Most of the artwork that you see in the gallery is people who's already, first of all, they're probably already dead, and or they're like millionaires by now. And I want something for people who don't have that. People who are still trying to make a name for themselves. So an art gallery is the best way that I could do that. And I would have, it would be for only Black artists. Like, I would make that very clear. Like, this is an opportunity for Black artists, because right now I feel like we're going through another renaissance. Like, actually, I know we're going through another renaissance. Like you said, the Harlem Renaissance, we're definitely in another one of those periods right now. And, we're planting those seeds, but we might not have the resources to get it to the eyes it needs to be at. So that's my plan. I want to be able to create a platform for people to make a name for themselves. You know what I'm saying? You're not waiting to get into the modern Museum of Art after you're dead. You know what I'm saying? After you've already, get your flowers after you've already passed away. Like, I want people to be able to make a name for themselves and get all the credit that's deserved to them while they're still here. And that the gallery is how I plan to go about doing that.
Yeah, I love that idea. Two things. Write it down and copyright it so nobody steal your thing.
Yes, sir.
Two, get a business plan together. Cause there's a lot of Black people. Like, when you said that, I'm like, yo, I'm not an artist. I don't know nothing about no galleries. I'm gonna get back to that. But it's like, like a breath of fresh air. Like, yo, I love creators. Like, that's one thing I like: creation. People that's creative, people that's coming up with new things. When you said that, like I said, I don't know anybody that's even thinking that way. I don't know a lot of artists either, though. So, that's a different field for me. I'm in the music, media journalism type of field. So it might be in the artistic side of things, it may be people. But in my life, I've never had a conversation and somebody said, yo, I want to open a gallery. Now, I might, be talking to a female and she said, let's go to a museum or let's go look at art.
Right, yeah.
That's different. We're having an interview. You say, I want to open an art gallery for up and coming artists or inspiring, or people that may not be in the spotlight, or may not have the resources. Again, I'm from the outside looking in. I didn't even know there was a process to get into an art gallery or museum. So what I'm thinking is like, okay, people, because you said it, you tapped on it. Most of the artists that I know about, they're already dead. They become famous after they die. So I'm thinking, okay, people do art, art. I didn't know the process of how they got it. I just know most of the famous ones, they were already dead. Now you're telling me you're an artist. You're submitting your art. They're not picking it.
Nope.
And you have to have, you said, so it's almost like, I equate that to like the record industry. Like, you may be an artist, but if you don't have the team behind you, you don't have the promotion, the marketing, you'll be an indie artist and you still may never get known outside of your neighborhood.
Right.
Are you because when we say I'm a rapper, I'm an artist. You're a painter, clothing, visualizer, all that, artist. You're telling me it's the same?
Yep. Like ultimately, an art gallery is like your agency. That's your label. You are selling your art to the gallery and they give you a commission of the price sold. But the way that your art can even get into the gallery, literally somebody just has to find it. Like some
Wow.
places might have competitions, but those competitions you have to pay a fee and you're not guaranteed to win and you're not getting that money back.
Right.
But honestly, it's very hard to get your art into a gallery and I just feel like that's dumb because there's so many
Right.
people out here that are talented and who don't have, random art collectors who aren't rubbing hands with people who have that much money right now, but who still, I feel, deserve to be appreciated.
Definitely.
And so, like with music, you've got to have a manager. So your manager in the art world is your gallery curator, and those are the people who's in charge of all this stuff. So it's literally it's very similar actually, and I never really thought about it like that, but it's
Wow.
very similar, which is why it's so hard to just be an artist. Like that's why there's that starving artist myth. Those are people who don't have that management, who don't have that agency, who don't have that gallery support to help build a name for themselves. And like I said, I feel like that's even harder for Black people. You know what I'm saying? And especially like the stuff that Black people like to portray in our artwork, like we like to tell the whole story. I haven't
Right.
really seen too much tragic white artwork by white artists, and I feel like they can't relate to that tragedy. But
Right.
Black people, like we can have there's some gruesome Black art, but it's true. You know what I'm saying? Like it comes from our history, and white people might not want to see that. They might not let that be in the gallery. But
Right.
somebody like me, if I understand, okay, you're a Black artist just like me, and this might not be something that I really want to see, but it's something that needs to be seen. You know what I'm saying? It might not be happy, but you're telling your story. I believe in you. Let's put it in the gallery. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of
Definitely.
how I want to do it because art is subjective. Just because I like it, don't mean you're gonna like it, and vice versa.
Right.
But good art is always gonna speak for itself. Whether you like the content, you're gonna know as an artist, you're gonna know good art when you see it based on the colors, the brush strokes, and I just don't like seeing work go undervalued and underappreciated. And I feel like that's a projection from me. Like I feel like a lot of my work has been undervalued and underappreciated. And I don't take it personal. I understand that it's because I don't have those resources. And now I have to do what I can to get those resources. And
Right.
once I have those resources, I'm going to do the same thing for people who don't have those resources.
Wow. Now you're taking me too fast. You're taking me fast. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you. Because I'm new into this podcasting thing. So
Mm,
we study people to do that's further along than where we are.
right.
So I have to keep it real with you right now. Is this guy I watch? He does the drink champs. And when
Mm,
people say something that blows his mind, right?
mm,
He has this quote that he says, "Geez Louise." Right?
mm,
It is like when he says it, because it's like he's learning. It's like, yo, so with him, he's talking and people telling their stories.
mm,
He's been in the industry.
right.
So it's kind of like, yo, are you serious? So for years I thought this was this. Now you telling me that. And it's kind of like his eyes are now open to
Mm-hmm,
something that he thought was truth. So
right.
when that moment happens, he says, "Geez Louise." And I'm like, yo, wait, what is this "Geez Louise" thing? But then as I begin to study him,
Mm-hmm,
it's like when those times and those moments where it's like, yo, I never really knew that.
mm-hmm,
He says that. Since I've been on this show, I've talked to a lot of different interesting people, yo.
mm-hmm.
You're a peculiar one in many different ways, not in a bad way. And
Right.
I'm that I want you to understand, like I mean this literally from my heart. I'm
Mm,
not trying to be funny. I'm not, some people sarcastic and
yeah.
dry humor. It's none of that. For one, like I said earlier, you inspire me because your age and your business owner, your mentality.
Mm-hmm,
But now when you just said the art and the music is the same, it's like you made the parallels. I've been doing music for 30 years.
mm-hmm,
So I hear music, I see music. When I say that, it's like kind of like you with colors and your strokes.
mm-hmm.
So when you said that and you made the parallel, it's like a whole matrix just opened up for me on the art side of things.
Right. Yeah.
So now, even down to the name, artist, you know what I'm saying? The starving artist. That's what they call
Mm-hmm.
rappers and musicians that never make it. You're still a starving artist.
Right.
you just made a parallel with art, just art altogether. Because music
Mm-hmm.
is art, painting is art, design is art, fashion is art.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like one person may learn through visuals, one person may learn through writing, one person may
Basically.
learn. You just broke something down in my language
Mm-hmm.
that I've never known, and it was a G's Louise. I said I would never say that on this cat. You just hit me with a G's Louise because it's like a lot of these artists, even the ones that I know about. Now
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking painters when I say artists now.
Okay.
They died. A lot of them never even were wealthy.
Yep,
A lot
like
of them died
Basquiat,
broke.
he died broke, but
Right.
his work is being resold for 100. He's actually his work is the highest art, like highest value period in the art market right now, and
Right.
he's dead.
And he's dead. So it's
Yep.
like a lot of when I make that I watch Unsungs and these
Mm. Mm.
old groups,
Right.
even New Edition. So you sign for a VHS tape and $2,500. And
Yep.
30 years later, these are music that we grew up on, we love,
Mm.
and you got scraps pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like now they're older in age. You still have to do tours to feed your family and stuff like that. It's like
Right.
now you're saying with the art side, because I'm, looking from the outside in, I
Mm.
don't know. You just let me in.
Yeah, and
You
it's crazy because
right,
those people who have those bad deals, a lot of the time is whose fault? The manager.
right,
So in art, I want to be that manager that's not letting these people get bad deals. You signed to my label, and
right.
I'm your manager. I'm going to make sure that you're getting paid your worth. So like you said, it is very similar actually. It's pretty much the same thing.
Wow. Jeez Louise. I mean, yeah, literally. I mean, it's funny, but it's
Right.
not. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm serious. I never would have made the parallel to that.
Yep.
So let me ask you, the gallery being the record label,
Mm-hmm.
the gallery makes all this money off of
Mm-hmm.
these paintings. Do the family of these dead famous painters, do they get in any of it, or the galleries?
To my knowledge, no. Usually the commission. Well, I've had my artwork in like a smaller local gallery,
Right,
and the commission rate, I think it was 60/40, and yeah, and that's typical. Like that's usually
right,
how it goes for a lot of the galleries that I was looking at. It's about 60/40. You get 60, they get 40. There is no what's your family get. You, the one who made the art, your name is the one that signed on here. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people don't even know about the business of art
right,
to even, put their families on. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's grimy, you know what I'm saying? Like I just don't like that. And because
right,
I take that personal as an artist, as a black artist, because I know that there's a lot of black artists who went through that. A lot of people who or who even have amazing work that never makes it into the gallery. There was never anybody who could see their potential and make help them do something with it. So that's why this gallery thing is my goal, because I kind of want to change that. Like, who says that has to be normal? Who says that the price
right,
of your art should appreciate after you die? Like that's dumb to me. Like the
right,
value of a car doesn't go up after the car is dead.
right,
So I feel like that shouldn't be the same for art. And I can't change the whole art world, but I can change that within my own community. So that's important to me. Like, if you can't do it on a large scale, don't let that stop you from not doing anything. You still got to do what you can do with what you got. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day, being resourceful and having that passion to help out others.
and I'm telling you, you're blowing my mind right now. You're like, all right, we all know our purposes and stuff like that. It's
Right.
like, with this platform right here,
Mm-hmm.
it started, how you may start something and it's like you have one thing in mind and it starts evolving and takes its own shape.
Yep.
I realized probably maybe 5 episodes in that people watching the podcast,
Mm.